Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. I have got a good video for you guys today. We are talking all about drugstore dupes for some of my favorite high-end makeup products. And I think most of these are dupes that I haven't seen other people feature before. But I've been putting these to the test for the last couple weeks and we're going to feature them all in a video today on half of my face. I'm not going to tell you guys which yet, although we will talk about it as we get into the video. But half of my face today is high-end, half of it is drugstore. Can you guys tell initially on looking at me? We are talking about a $233 price difference here. And I cannot wait to share with you guys some of these dupes. Hope that you are excited about it. Before we jump into the video, I want to give a special welcome to those of you that are new to my channel. Happy to have you here. I hope you'll consider subscribing before you leave and make sure your notifications are turned on if you'd like to be notified every time I upload a new video. And with that said, we have a lot of makeup to put on today, so let's get to it. Alright guys, we're prepped and ready to go. No primer today. We're going to jump right in with foundation. So for everything today, I am going to be doing the high end on the right side, the drugstore or affordable on the left side. The first dupe I have, my foundation dupe today, is the Estee Lauder Futurist Hydro Rescue Foundation, and I am comparing that to the L'Oreal Age Perfect Radiant Serum Foundation. The price difference in these two, it's pretty significant. We have $45 for the Estee Lauder and $12 for the L'Oreal. So I'm going to start off with the Estee Lauder. I'm going to do about a half a pump, actually about a full pump of this one just on the right side of my face. I'm going to start with this side of my sponge, just using a clean, damp beauty sponge today, and we're going to apply this, or attempt to apply this, just to one side of my face. I'm a big fan of this foundation. It gives good solid medium coverage. It's very, very hydrating, very liquidy, nice and lightweight, not too heavy or thick feeling on the skin. By the way, I have the shade 2W1 Dawn in the Estee Lauder and the shade 40 in the L'Oreal, and I did check them before filming this video and they look pretty close or pretty spot on as far as their color, so that worked out well. Okay, there we have the right side of my face. Let's jump over to the L'Oreal Age Perfect Serum Foundation. This one doesn't have a pump, so I'm going to attempt to put on the back of my hand about what a pump gave me from the Estee Lauder, and we're going to turn that sponge over and apply this one to the left side of my face. This one does have less of a fragrance, but I feel like I can smell the sunscreen in the L'Oreal more than I can in the Estee Lauder. The Estee Lauder one is slightly, very lightly fragranced, and I do really like the fragrance in it. It's very subtle though, it's not overpowering. For those of you that are pretty sensitive to smell or to scented makeup products. Alright, there we have it. There is the foundation dupe. The cost savings in those two, by the way, is about $33. That's pretty significant. Let's jump over to concealer. So the concealer dupe that I am going to be sharing with you guys today is for the Dior Forever Skin Concealer. And the one that I think is the closest dupe is the e.l.f. Hydrating Camel Concealer. These remind me a lot of each other. This is a concealer I've had for a long time, but I've been using it more and more recently after you guys recommended it or raved about it. So I've gotten to know it a little bit better, and it does remind me quite a bit of the Dior. So the cost difference in these two, we have $38 for the Dior Forever Skin and $6 for the e.l.f. Hydrating Camo. I have the shade 1W for the Dior, but I do need to use two shades of the e.l.f. Camo. That's partly my fault because I think they might have been out of the shade that I was looking for, so I ended up going with one too light and one too dark. But their shade range is pretty vast, so I'm pretty sure I could find a perfect shade match for me, but I just make these two work by combining them together. So let's start on the right side of the face with the Dior Forever Skin Concealer, and I am going to use this as an eye primer today. It's going to be a little trickier to test because I feel like I have more to cover on this side of my face because that's where my really severe sunspot is. I have a little bit more spotting here, and I have a bit of a breakout on my cheek here as well. So although there is some things to cover on this side, there always is. I'm just going to blend that in with a relatively clean corner of my sponge. Alright, let's jump over to the other side. So for this one, I'm actually going to combine a little swipe of each on the back of my hand to get the shade match to match me. And the two shades I'm combining are Medium Sand and Fair Warm. So there they both are. So this one I'm going to actually use my finger for. And then just blending that in. All right, here we have the finished complexion. Big price difference here. We're talking close to $100 on this side and closer to $20 on this side. Next up, let's jump over to the brows. So I don't have a brow pencil dupe to share. You guys know I'm not really into trying out high-end brow pencils. I have my beloved Ulta Beauty pencil and a couple other drugstore ones that I like. So I'm actually gonna go in with my Ulta pencil on both sides and just add a little bit to the underside here, and then we're gonna be using a dupe, a tinted brow gel dupe, to kind of set them in place and finish off my brows. But I do need some help here on the bottom part of my brows. So for the brow gel dupe that I have, we are going with the Benefit Gimme Brow, duped by the e.l.f. Wow Brow. $38 for the Benefit and $4 for the e.l.f. So again, pretty big price difference. And I really do like both of these, but I especially love the e.l.f. one because it is so much more affordable, and I think it does just as good of a job as far as kind of tinting my brows and holding them in place. By the way, the shades, this one is in the shade 3, and the e.l.f. one I have is in the shade Taupe. I think the e.l.f. one might be just a hair lighter than the number 3 shade from Benefit. Alright, there we have the brows. I feel like those look pretty darn close. This one might be a little bit darker, but hopefully not too obvious. Let's move on with the rest of the cheeks. Probably the dupe that I am the most excited about today is a cream bronzer dupe. I was so excited when I discovered this one. I don't think I've heard anybody talk about this yet. It is the Patrick Ta bronzer, and I'm specifically talking about the cream inside here, which, as much as I love this entire product, what makes this a standout for me is the cream bronzer. I love it. The shade is perfect. The formula is fantastic. And I have a great affordable dupe for this one today. It is from Kiko Milano. This is their Sculpting Touch Stick in the shade 200. By the way, the shade of this one is She's Sculpted, which I think is the medium shade in this range. The price difference between these two is very significant. $38 for this one, although keep in mind it does give you a powder bronzer in here as well, and $14 for the Kiko Milano. I want to swatch them for you guys first before we apply them, just so you can see the color comparison. So here is the Patrick Ta on this side, and then let me just run this one on my finger. This is the Kiko Milano one down below. So there we have it right there. Honestly, once I blend them out, they are truly identical on the skin. I know it looks a little bit like the Patrick Ta's a little bit darker, but once you apply them, you really can't tell. They're nearly identical. So let's start off on the right side of my face with my Patrick Ta. I just like to kind of get my finger in here and really work it onto one finger and then give it a good swipe down my cheekbone. I'm going to add a little bit up here to my temple. I'm just going to blend this in most of the way with my finger. Take a little bit more on my finger and apply it right to the side of my nose. Okay, that's way too much. Hold on. And then with what's left, we're going to go along the jawline. I don't always do this. I usually just put bronzer on my cheekbone and on my temple. But for trial purposes, let's just do it today. So I'm going to just take a little angled brush and kind of go over the top of that just to finish blending it out with a brush. I kind of like to stipple on my cheek area. Let's do the other side first. So I'm going to actually take this on my finger first. Give it a good swipe. Same thing on my temple. Just blend it in. Tiny bit on the side of my nose. Oh, I forgot under my lip. I'll just do this with the one. And last, just along my jawline. I'm taking that same brush, just lightly stippling over everything to make sure it's all blended. And hopefully you guys can see how similar those two are. I think they look identical, they perform identically, but I'm so happy about that dupe. I love this cream bronzer. I actually meant to feature this in my last favorites video that I did earlier in the week. I talked about the Fenty bronzer in that video, which I do also love. It's a little bit newer to me, but I think these two are even more creamy and emollient and easy to blend. Let's move on to my blush dupe, and for that I have a dupe for the Milk Lip and Cheek in the shade Work. You guys probably know, if you've been watching me for a while, how much I love this. I've been talking about it for over a year now, and I found a near dupe for this one. It's not exact, the color's not quite exact, it's more the formula than anything, but I am talking specifically about the Flower Beauty Gel Crush Lip and Cheek. This one is in the shade Raspberry Crush. I love these both. They work very similarly. The formulas are very similar. I love them both on my cheeks and my lips. They both have a nice, lovely, soft scent. Let me me swatch them side by side. As you will see, they're not exact dupes in color, but the formulas are spot on. So here is the Milk in the shade Work, and then over here I have the Flower Beauty in the shade Raspberry Crush. You can see the Flower Beauty one is a little bit more of a bright pink, but on the cheeks these are quite similar. So my favorite way to apply these is with some small, like a small stippling brush like this one right here. This is actually the Alter Ego number 4 brush. I just like to kind of work it into the top. Then I typically like to kind of dab it onto the top of my hand to get a little bit of the excess product off and work it into the brush, and then I will just tap it onto my cheek. Sometimes I have to build up the color just a couple of times. It's just a perfect blush color. Okay, I'm going to wipe off that same brush, and then we're going to jump over to the Flower Beauty one, and I like to do the same thing with this one. Just kind of run my brush over the top, tap it onto the back of my hand a little bit, and then stipple it onto my cheeks. Alright, there we have it. I feel like those look very, very similar. I'm actually going to go around the edges of this one. I feel like I got a little bit wide with the color on this side, but other than that, I feel like those colors, don't they look almost identical? Oh, I didn't mention the cost difference. So this is the mini of the Milk one, it's $20, and then the Flower Beauty one is $10. And as far as the amount of product, this one gives you 0.2 ounces, this one gives you 0.33 ounces, so you do get more product in the Flower Beauty one. Jumping over to highlighter, I have another fantastic dupe for you guys. This one, I might have slightly hinted at these in other videos before, but we're going to test them out side by side today. I'm comparing the MAC Double Gleam highlighter, one of my favorites, to another drugstore favorite of mine, the Revlon Skin Lights highlighter in the shade Daybreak Glimmer. These two are so similar to each other in both color and formula. They are both very intense highlighters, so if you are very timid with your highlighter, you want something a little bit more natural. I don't know that either of these can do natural. They're quite intense, but they're not glittery, and I don't find them to emphasize texture too much. So let's do a little side-by-side swatch so you guys can see how they swatch next to each other before we go ahead and use them. So here we have the MAC Double Gleam, a good classic champagne, and then the Revlon Skin Lights in the shade Daybreak Glimmer. It's a little bit more golden tone, but as you can see, the reflect quality to them is quite similar. This one's just a little bit more on the warm side, whereas this is more of just an icy sort of champagne. So let's start off with the MAC on my right side. And this one I'm going to highlight the Cupid's bow, and then the other one I'm going to highlight the bridge of my nose with, kind of split the difference. Suppose I could have just not highlighted those two areas, but I am of the opinion the more the merrier when it comes to my highlighter. Okay, so hopefully you can see those two side by side. Hopefully my lighting is nice and even. Very, very similar to each other. Honestly, on the skin, I can't really tell a difference between them. But the price difference is quite significant. The MAC Double Gleam is $37. The Revlon Skin Lights, especially if you can find this at a Walmart or a Target, is going to be around $10. Alright guys, cheeks are done. Let's move on to eyeshadow. Very excited about this dupe today. We are going to be duping the Natasha Denona Retro Palette, this new release that I think a lot of people are loving, including myself. But it is a pricey one, and I have a good alternative, affordable option for it. And it comes in these two palettes, the Making Mauves palette and the Blush Crush palette from Colourpop. Combined together, these two palettes are going to give you very similar shadows to this one right here. So let me just open them up side by side for you guys, and then I'm going to insert some swatch comparisons for you as well. Not every shade inside here is duped, and some of them are nearly identical, whereas others are just similar. But overall, if you're looking for an affordable alternative to the Retro palette, these two are going to give you very similar shades. So I'll insert for you guys right here those swatch comparisons. Keep in mind, the swatches come from a combination of the two palettes from Colourpop, but hopefully you can see in this side by side there's several shades that are nearly identical dupes and then quite a few that are very, very similar. So we're going to put them to the test today. By the way, the price difference, the Natasha Denona is $65. The two Colourpop palettes individually are $14 a piece, so $28 for the alternative. So again, we're going to have the high-end, the Natasha Denona on my right side, the affordable Colourpop on my left side. Starting off in the Natasha Denona, I'm going to take this shade right here. This is shade Nude Mauve. It's kind of a dusty mauve, I guess you could say, and we're going to apply that through my crease and slightly above. Add just a little bit more. We're going to go a little bit more above my crease with this shade. I'm just wiping that brush off on a clean rag I have in my lap, and we're going to go into the Making Mauves palette, this shade in the corner, the shade Tongue Tied. And again, we're just going to apply that up through my crease. Now I'm going to go into this shade in the Natasha Denona. This is the shade Andy, which is a little bit deeper, a little bit more purple. And I'm just applying that to the very tip of that same brush. We're going to be a little more precise with this shade and run it through my crease just to add a little bit more depth. Back over to the Making Mauves palette. This corner shade, the shade Big Fig. These two are very, very similar to each other. Do the same on this side. Alright, now with that same shade I just used, we're going to take this little smudge brush, the number 2 brush from Rephr. Again, this is the shade Andy from Natasha Denona on the right side. We're going to run that shade on the lower lash line. About 2/3 of the way in. Wipe that off, go back into the Making Mauves palette and take the shade Big Fig. Same thing on this side. Alright, now we're going to take a smaller brush. I have here the Rephr number 13 little tiny blending brush. We're going to go in with this shade right here. We're going to start deepening out the outer corner. This is the shade Groove, Berry Matte shade, and we're going to start adding this to the outer corner. Building up some depth along this lash line. And then pulling it up and in a little bit. Just with what's left on that brush, I'm just going to ever so slightly drag that down below. Wiping that brush off on my lap, and then we're going to jump over to the Blush Crush palette, and I have this shade right here. This is the shade Blush Wine. It does have a little bit of sparkle in it, but the shade itself is very similar, and I find these sparkly mattes from Colourpop tend to work more as mattes. A lot of the sparkle just blends away especially when I use them in my outer corner. Colors are about identical. I am noticing, I think the Natasha Denona one was just a little bit easier to blend. I'm finding this one to be just a little bit tricky. I'm having to spend a little bit more time. With what's left, I'm just running that under this very most outer corner. Alright, now let's jump over to this shade in the Natasha Denona palette. This down here is the shade Hello. Really pretty kind of mid-tone taupe. I'm going to take that and just tap it across the center of my lid, leaving that inner third of my lid open to top with something else. And then for the affordable side, we're going to go into this Making Mauves palette. We're going to take this shade right here, which is called Mauve on Top, and we're going to tap that one. Same thing, just across the center part of the lid. Okay, looking pretty good so far. Let's move into the inner corner. Taking the Natasha Denona palette, I'm taking the shade up in the top corner, the shade Glitz. Really pretty, sparkly, kind of golden pink. And we're going to run that just on this inner third of the lid and pulling it in to overlap that shade we put on in the center. And then on the other side, we're going to go into the Making Mauves palette again. Take this shade right here. It's called Bi-Coastal. And same thing, pop that just on the inner corner and slightly overlap that other shimmer. I just want to finish things off by going in with that smudge brush, the number 2 brush. We're going to take that deepest shade that we used, the shade Groove, just on the tip of that brush. We're going to run that just right, almost like we're drawing a wing from the outer corner of my lashes upwards, and then pull a little bit of it down towards the top lashes and then down towards the bottom lashes just to work out that shape right there. Now back over to the Blush Crush palette, to the shade Blush Wine, and same thing on this side. Alright you guys, what do you think? I feel like those look nearly identical. Fantastic dupe there. Let's add a little bit of mascara. So I don't have a mascara dupe today. I'm just going to take a couple of coats of my e.l.f. Lash It Loud mascara. Then I'm going to come back, we'll finish off with the lips, and we will be all done. Alright guys, here are the finished eyes, the finished face. Pretty impressive, am I right? Let's move on to the lips. So I do have 3 lip product dupes to share with you guys, a liner, a lipstick, and a lip gloss. One of my favorite high-end lip liners that I actually think is worth its very high price tag is the Charlotte Tilbury Lip Cheats liner in the shade Iconic Nude. Now I have a shade dupe for this. I have yet to find a formula dupe for this. This stuff lasts better than any lip liner I have ever tried. Let me give it a swatch on the back of my hand for you guys. Here's the color right here, and the dupe that I have found for it is from Colourpop. It is the Colourpop Lippy Pencil in the shade Beeper. So let me swatch that one next to the Charlotte Tilbury Iconic Nude. You guys see how close those are? That's incredible, by the way. It's the same color as my nails. Oh, what a good day. So this might be a little bit more tricky. I'm gonna line the right side of my lips with the Charlotte Tilbury, and then we'll come back with the Colourpop and do the left side. There's Charlotte on the right side. Let's move over to the Colourpop on the left. This one is a little bit more creamy. And it definitely doesn't, it lasts okay, but it doesn't last anywhere nearly as long as the Charlotte Tilbury. But the shade match looks just about spot on, am I right? I'm gonna just take my clean finger on both sides and kind of rub that in. See, I don't know if you guys can tell, this one's not really rubbing in, like it's set down. Okay, now let's go for the lipstick. So the lipstick dupe that I have found is one of my favorite lipsticks from MAC. It is the Viva Glam 2 lipstick. I absolutely love this stuff. I'm actually getting pretty close to finishing this up, and I have a great dupe for it from Almay. This is the Almay Lip Vibes in the shade Worry Less. Let me show you guys how these look. Here is the MAC Viva Glam 2, really nice, cool tone, just sort of mauve nude. And then the shade Worry Less from Almay. I do think Viva Glam has just a little bit more pink in it. So here's Viva Glam on this side. This is the Worry Less shade from Almay, but those are pretty darn close. So let's see if I can do this without any trouble. We're gonna apply MAC to the right and the Almay to the left. Last but not least, I do have a gloss dupe. One of my favorite high-end glosses is from Persona. It is the Persona lip gloss in the shade pink. I love this stuff. Let me give it a swatch on the back of my hand. There it is right there. The dupe I have for that one is from NYX. This is the shade Tiramisu from NYX, which is one of my favorites. Let me just swatch that one as well. So here we have the Persona. Here we have the NYX Tiramisu. They look just about identical. By the way, let's jump back over to some of those previous lip products. I forgot to mention the price. Let's go back to the lip liner really quick. The Charlotte Tilbury is a whopping $22, whereas the Colourpop Beeper is $6. For the lipsticks, the MAC Viva Glam 2 we have at $19, the Almay Lip Vibes $8. And the lip glosses, we have the Persona retail priced at $16 and the NYX Butter Gloss for $5. So let's apply these two, and then I think this is the last product that we have. So foreign to me to not blot my lips. Feels wrong. Alright you guys, there we have it. Here is the finished look. I have to say, these look pretty identical. I see subtle differences in the eyes, but not very much. And considering that price difference and that we have two palettes on this side duping one very expensive palette on this side, I think it did a pretty good job. Very happy with everything across the board. Let me just give you guys a good side to side so you can kind of analyze for yourselves. I think everything is pretty close. But last thing, let's talk about the final sticker price, because that's why we all watch dupe videos, right? So the right side of my face, the high end, everything on this side cost a grand total of $336. Ouch, right? And then this side we have coming in at $103. Huge price difference there, $233 to be exact. So what do you guys think? Do you think this side looks like it's worth $233 more than this side? I am so excited about some of these dupes. Hopefully for those of you that maybe are looking for some drugstore alternatives to some of my favorite high-end makeup, hopefully this gives you a good place to start. Let me know what dupes you guys have discovered. What is your top #1 dupe that you have ever found? I would love to know. Thank you guys so much. I hope that you enjoyed this one. Let me remind you one more time, if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, I hope that you'll consider doing that before you leave. That's all I have for you guys today. I will see you all in my next video. Bye. Actually, let me wipe off some of this concealer that I have on my lips, which, by the way, my lips are having a time lately. They are so dry. This side looks like it's $233 worth more. Wait.